Hello, and welcome to the Rude Boys Podcast, episode 14. Austin, it's been... Oh, I just forgot to mention, I'm Kyle Long, and you're Austin Robertson.
Yeah, I'm Austin Robertson.
It's been a long time since we both started this podcast, and since we did the last one, because many of things have happened. It's been half a year since we recorded the last episode. I feel bad about that, but I had a good reason. I was jobless and depressed throughout most of 2020, thanks to, the good old Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a job right at the beginning of December when we when we recorded that episode. And it's been keeping me busy, but it's been paying my bills, so that's good. I'm alive. That's good. And I haven't gotten an opportunity to vacation or take time to myself since then, but I'm feeling refreshed. I want to get back to the podcast, so I edited and put up the last one, and I'm ready to record this one. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good too. I definitely feel you on the lack of vacation. I haven't had one in several years.
You've been working really hard.
It is good to relax and to feel good with yourself, to not be depressed. You seem like a boy who enjoys having some work on his hands. Can't keep them idle.
I need structure, man, and not having a job for months on end was killing me. So as soon as I got a job, I had to get into the routine of, working again, and then I felt good about getting back to the podcast, which I do now. So let's start the bullshit session. This is like the best thing. I'll ask you, do you have a topic first you want to talk about?
I'm trying to think. Last time we did the recording, I don't believe, it's a little out of season, but we did end up watching some holiday flicks together, and we had a glorious time doing so.
Yes, I mentioned we did watch the weird Christmas movies that we brought up last time. We watched the Miser Brothers Christmas special.
The 2008 one.
Which had the absolute Chad North Wind in it.
The North fucking Wind.
Look at this guy's face.
He's got a chin the size of California, and I love it.
He would kill Jay Leno with that, with just his chin.
They could have a chin off.
A chin off, yeah.
And the Crimson Chin would show up.
Yeah, he'd be third place.
And then Butch Hartman would show up and then say something controversial.
And then she ended up passing away. I think Tara actually had something to do with that. That was probably your fault.
And then get put back in the Twitter prison.
Do you even know who I am?
Do you even know who I am? That'll be $200 for my presents.
Oh, yeah, you want a commission? Oh, here you go. Oh! Cue the disgusted SpongeBob noise.
What a hilarious human being.
Oh, God. Butch Hartman is a living meme.
He really has become a lolcow as of late. Holy shit.
Speaking of meme things, we also watched Rudolph's Shiny New Year, which you went out of your way to show to me because you told me it was fucking weird.
I'm trying to remember. Did we watch Rudolph's Shiny New Year?
Yeah, we did. It was fucking goofy. He went up with the baby New Year.
Oh, I did show you that.
And he met up with, like, a night. And, they went to, I think, BC at some point. It was very roundabout, and it went on for fucking ever, but we watched it.
Dude, that thing was a fucking fever dream. I'm so glad to introduce you to weird Rankin Bass shit.
You really like the Rankin and Bass movies. I can tell you that. I've seen a couple of them, and I do like them, but this was a weird pick. I will say, and so was Miser Brothers, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, we picked Miser Brothers to laugh at it. We didn't really enjoy it. I don't think so. I mean, I thought it was very mediocre.
I just love the Baby New Year we watched because I think it was getting closer to New Year at that time, and
yeah, it was later in December. Yeah.
I just wanted to show you like how unbelievably strange the Rankin Bass stop motions could get when they were just like really trying to like extend what they could make. Just having a movie where a child gets mercilessly bullied for having enormous ears is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, they made fun of his ears. It's a baby, too. It's not even a child. It's a baby. Like, how does it respond to mass bullying?
It's an amazing film. I love it. But we did see...
You know what else we watched?
All of the Other Reindeer.
Yeah, we watched my favorite Christmas movie, Olive the Other Reindeer, with Drew Barrymore as a dog and Dan Castellaneta as the main antagonist mailman.
The evil mailman.
Who gets his own song about how much he hates his job at Christmas time.
It's great. Dan Castellaneta as villains is always fun.
Yeah.
However, we both came to the consensus that the true villain of that movie is the flea.
The fucking flea, yeah. He goes out of his way to like, oh, I heard your owner said this, and he hates you. He doesn't want to see you anymore.
He orchestrated everything.
He orchestrated it, the son of a bitch flea.
I think he did it to get Olive's house. I think that's all it was.
Yeah, he wanted the house to himself. That's right.
He's like, I gotta get rid of
He was trying to get her
Olive.
kicked out. Yeah, Jay Moore as the owner or whatever. He just believed everything. He said, "Oh, Olive, oh no, oh I upset her and she left."
Olive,
Oh.
did you hear your owner? He says that you're a beta cuck. And then Olive's like, no, he didn't say that. Yeah, all of the other reindeer is great though. Dan Castellaneta is great. The penguin, we love the penguin.
Yes, yeah, the penguin who sold the fake watches.
I'm trying to remember his name.
Pingu.
Yeah, Pengu. Nope.
The black guy driver. Olive.
Now he's the true hero of the movie.
He tried. He was trying to get people hyped.
That dude is a friend who would never let you down.
Right? Like, everybody on that bus was so nice to this dog who's, like, firmly believes that she's the reindeer. Yeah.
And that guy at the bar, he just wanted a drill so bad, and you know what? He got it.
Oh, yeah, the guys at the bar.
What a weird movie.
What a weird segue. Yeah, the other Rudolph, or the other reindeer at the bar.
Parappa the Rappa 3 was not what I expected, frankly.
I think the absurdity of that movie worked, though. It worked better than Shiny New Year.
That is true. Both movies were absurd in their own ways.
Yeah. What else did we talk about last time? We mentioned CyberPunk. Because it was like, it was coming out like a week after.
You want to talk about something from the last episode that didn't age well?
Yeah, I squeezed that in the video editing. I put the Metacritic scores up on the episode when we mentioned it.
Oh boy.
So, I haven't played CyberPunk, but I saw it come out, and I saw it was looking not so hot, and I decided to put off buying it, but Austin bought it, so he can actually talk about it.
I do own it. My issues with the game are purely design-based, because I have a rig which boasts a fairly decent CPU and an RTX 2080 Ti. My box plays at full spec, not a big issue really. I never really experienced much glitches when I was playing. My issues are purely design-based, which no matter what you're playing on can't be fixed. Sadly, it just felt very unintuitive, sort of unfocused, a little strange. It's to compare it to The Witcher. I don't understand how the same developer put out these two games, because The Witcher,
they seem very different. The Witcher is like focused. Witcher knew what it wanted to be.
The Witcher is a borderline masterpiece, if not perfectly so. It's like, it's an amazing work.
I won't agree with that. I think it's a 7 out of 10, but it's pretty good.
I believe The Witcher deserves a hell of a lot of credit.
We're talking about Witcher 3, not Witcher 1 or 2.
No, Witcher 1 or 2 have aged a little bit, but The Witcher 3 certainly, I believe, at least deserves a 9 out of 10.
Okay, that's fair. But yeah, I've seen other people play through Cyberpunk. I wasn't interested in it as I thought I would be. I seen it had problems, and also, it seemed like it was trying to be kind of a GTA thing, where they just had a lot of ideas of what they wanted to be, but they didn't have the time or the budget. I mean, I guess you could say they had the time because they were delayed it so many times, but a lot of that time was spent crunching. And you could kind of tell with the end result because a lot of things don't feel finished or well thought out in Cyberpunk, from what I could tell. I mean, obviously the driving AI comes to mind.
It is so clear that they really wanted to imitate something that they didn't purely understand and weren't prepared or experienced enough to follow through with. And that is so easy to see when you compare it to GTA 5, as people have often done when you compare it to a game which was produced like a half decade before. It's like a long time ago. More than a half decade. It's been like 8 years, dude. Yeah, it's deficient in almost every way, and it's really sad because.
But my thing is, I wish it would have focused more. Like if it would have just had the right things done. Like I think the storytelling is good, and I think the style is great. I think those things are nailed. But when it comes to gameplay, it's just lacking on most fronts.
Because we love the style, we love the setting, we love the story. So,
sure.
An example to compare it to is Disco Elysium.
Oh, we're gonna talk about Disco Elysium. Hey.
A game with amazing setting, amazing style, and an impeccable story and writing.
We love Disco Elysium. It's got amazing writing. One of the best books I've ever read that's also a video game.
And post-update, we're talking about, like, amazing voice acting as well.
Yeah, fucking, what a whole nother dimension. That game just changed entirely when they added full voice acting.
Mm-hmm. And you want to talk about, like, isometric point-and-click adventure game? Like, what an antiquated gameplay thing most people would say, but in Disco Elysium, that shit, it's very alive and well.
Yeah, this came out 2019, I believe? I think it came out 2 years ago.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Disco Elysium is an amazing example of a game which is so focused and, like, laser refined. And imagine if we could have a Disco Elysium with the competency of Witcher 3 or, like, GTA 5 and, like, a sprawling, like, 3D environment.
To be fair, I think those are very different styles of games that you could make.
They are different. They are different styles. I don't deny that.
Disco Elysium is narrative focused. Like the mechanics themselves are built into the narrative.
But the narrative is part of the design.
Yeah.
I'm saying you can have that kind of narrative storytelling without it being predicated on the gameplay itself. So it's like you can have that kind of thing in the framework, gameplay-wise, of what CyberPunk was aiming to do, but they couldn't follow through on it for some reason.
For many reasons, I think poor direction was one of those.
It's like no matter how good, if Disco Elysium, the writing and the style and everything of Disco Elysium was the same, but the developers, when following through on the gameplay, imagine if Disco Elysium attempted to do GTA 5 rather than what they did, tried to do something that they aren't experienced with, and are trying to imitate something rather than work with what they're good at, it's just CyberPunk again.
The decent idea at the core, and you've got, the art direction is really solid in CyberPunk. Everything's pretty consistent. It looks good.
Yeah.
But that's where the budget went. The art direction and I guess some of the storytelling.
If the video game isn't fun to play, it doesn't matter how good everything on top of it is. The gameplay is the foundation, and if it is no good, it is not going to sell.
Yeah, I think people will play CyberPunk one time and then forget about it, which is unfortunate because it's been hyped up for a really long time, and now we're 6 months in, I don't hear anybody talking about it.
It's a real shame when something gets hyped up like that and then it disappears like instantly after it releases and no one has a peep to say about it.
It's sad. I don't want these kinds of things to happen, but they do happen. So, all right, what else? We talked about a couple episodes ago. We interviewed a band, Austin. I think you know who they're called. They're called the Third Rates.
The fourth. Oh, okay. Never mind. Not the fourth rate.
The fourth rate duelists with it. What's the line? Say it.
With the third rate dick. That's the one.
Oh, got it. Okay, cool. And they released an album. They did it. They put the album out in February, and we got to hear an early copy of it because we had special treatment. And if my memory is to be believed, I think we both enjoyed it. I don't think we'll do a whole episode on the album, though. I think we're going to wait to cover a future release. But I would love to have Dylan back on the show again because he was a good guest. And I want to talk about how much has changed since we did that first interview. Because back then, the band wasn't even in its full form yet. They'd only put out one song. And I just kind of rushed talking to them because I really wanted to talk to him and Corey because I knew it would be a fun episode.
It was fun, yeah.
But now that they have some music out, I want to hear more from them.
It was crazy watching Dylan like working his ass off to get the songs made from scratch.
Yeah, like really crunch. I mean, we recorded that episode September? I want to say. Yeah, in like 4 or 5 months, and he crushed out the whole rest of the album after that. And that was all because he was having a kid. He had a kid right after his album came out. So shout-outs to him, man.
Do you think he has favoritism to the album, his true kid, over his biological kid?
What's his true baby? The baby, or the album he put out.
Which is the one.
Now they have to compete.
That's a competitive household. It's like, his wife did a hard work carrying that baby to term, but he carried his own baby to term. That man, he did it.
All right, let's not compare pregnancy to birthing an album. Let's not do that.
No, we're professional music. We know the difference.
We're not professional.
We're experts at music and pregnancy, dude. Come on.
Well, putting out an album is definitely not easy. Regardless of the outcome, we should show support and get more people into ska and encourage them to maybe start their own bands. Because, I mean, from what Dylan has told us, he literally just asked on Reddit, hey, does anybody want to be in a band? And he found some people. And he put an album out within a year. So y'all can do it too. If that's what you want to do, you can do it.
I actually do know a couple people locally who are interested in forming a band, if not a ska band. So I might take Dylan's lead and push a little on that, actually.
Yeah, if you can get a couple people and say like, hey, we have this, this, and this, and I have some song ideas. Do you want to play with us? And you could just form a band that way. You can, in fact, just do it. We are living in a time where it's actually pretty easy to make a band. Now, if that band will be successful, time will tell. But you can always put yourself out there, I think you should do that. You shouldn't be afraid of rejection or saying, oh, we suck or I suck, because, you could get better. Just start somewhere.
Yeah, I think if I were to give the third rates a single, definitive descriptor, it would be something of potential. What the third rates have is infinite potential, and what's important is that they have the follow through to just, as they would say themselves, just toss a ton of shit out there and see what sticks.
He said that. Woo! We did it! I'm so proud of you, Austin.
Very important. It's very important because you can always improve every time you do something, so long as if you practice makes perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. So it's like, so long as they are attempting and learning with everything they do, so long as they are making and putting out stuff, they will improve and refine themselves over time. So
I agree.
I look forward to seeing them improve.
And seeing them live. I really want to see them live at some point.
Definitely. The producing a recorded album and playing a live show are very different.
Very different,
I believe that their potential as a live album might be more immediate, simply because the energy that I have seen displayed by the individuals in that band is pretty high.
Yes. I love it. I love the energy displayed by those guys, so I would like to see it front row, if possible. If you guys can get me some tickets, shout out on this podcast.
So, in conclusion, third rates, more like pretty good band.
Good.
Yeah.
I forgot to say the name of the album. I feel so stupid. You said it before me. I forgot the entire time I was doing my spiel. I didn't even say the name of the album to see what sticks.
Yeah, I did it. I brought it in there like a fucking professional champion.
Just
like a freight train. Yeah. Loud and obnoxious.
I wanted to talk about one more thing before we got into the band discussion. I was on Twitter talking about how we're going to post a new episode this weekend. Hey, guys, I remembered to do the podcast. Ha, ha, ha. So I found another podcast while I was looking up that called In Defense of Ska, hosted by a guy called Aaron Carnes. He is a music journalist, and he actually wrote a book about ska called In Defense of Ska, and I thought it was so cool, I had to shout him out.
I've seen this all over the In Defense of Ska book club, which is the current renaming of a ska Facebook group I follow.
Oh, cool. Okay, they just renamed it to that.
Yeah, the whole thing the last month has just been people posting pictures with the book. Aaron himself posting and talking with folks.
He seems cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I bought the book, so it's not in yet, but I bought it.
The whole community, as soon as the book release, 100% got behind it.
Great. We love to see it.
It's great how, unsurprisingly, the ska community can be fairly united whenever something positive for the group comes out.
I agree. That it does seem to be a recurring theme in ska. I wonder why.
You love to see it.
You love to see it. But the reason I shout him out was because I looked through his podcast episodes, and he interviews people, and a couple people he interviewed, or one important person he interviewed that is going to be relevant to this episode, Brian Diaz. I listened to that whole thing, and he is apparently keeping to the new episode every week, which is commendable. I can't do that. But shout outs to Aaron. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I really enjoy the show, and I'm going to enjoy the book when it gets here. Hopefully I'll read it before the next episode comes out. And thank you for putting out good content into the world, man. Love you. Mwah.
Absolute king.
So there you go. All right, we're talking about an older ska punk band this episode, Austin, and one that also is not around anymore. Edna's Goldfish is a band that thrived in the East Coast ska scene, originally from Long Island, New York. So you got another New York band. Similarly to Less Than Jake, they do not have a true origin story for their band's name. They claimed it was stupid. It was a stupid name. But they were glad they did not include ska in the band's name, like so many other bands did at the time, and still do.
I agree to both points.
Yeah, it's a stupid name, but at least it doesn't have ska in it. which is, a cheesy thing to do, honestly.
Yeah, don't put Ska on your name.
I think it's still a pretty memorable name. I think people who hear Edna's Goldfish know the name of the band, though. So the band originally technically started in 1994. They broke up in 96, reformed in 97 with a new group of people, but they kept the dumb name, which for no reason. Do not know why they did that. Even Brian himself does not know. And they had some pretty successful years until they ultimately broke up again in the year 2000, where they all felt like they wanted to move on, stop doing the band thing anymore. They had a couple reunion shows over the years, but they've not gotten back to making new music, and it's been a good 2 decades, so I'm pretty sure they're not gonna go back now. I think the time of Edna's Goldfish being a band are long over. This band has not been around for 21 years.
How long was Say Ferris not a thing and then came back?
Oh, that's a good question. Say Ferris came back and recorded new material, didn't they? Oh, guess what, Austin? 10 years.
Hey.
Yep, so we're halfway there. if Edna's Goldfish got back together 10 years ago, like in 2010, then we would have been somewhere. But it's currently 2021, so I think we'll rule it out. They're twice their age, Austin. All the band members have doubled in age since they recorded any of this material.
That's true. I mean, I guess, yeah, for if you can imagine if you were doing a band and then stopped for 20 years, your life would probably be very different from when you stopped being in that band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Only a couple of them still enjoy doing music. One of them is a constant tourer. We're going to mention Brian, the lead singer. He claimed in an interview that the band technically started when he and his friends worked at McDonald's. 3 of them knew how to play instruments, and they got together to jam, and that sort of became Edna's Goldfish. I think it was him, 2 guys, the McKenzie brothers, I don't remember their exact names, and another person.
Mm-hmm. The 4th person could only play the deep fryer at the store, so that's why every song in this album has like a bubbling sound in the background.
That's such a
just so that we could include him.
That's such a fucking stupid joke. Yeah.
I'm just trying to give facts out to the people.
These are your facts? Alright, you do the rest of the research. Go ahead, Austin.
Okay, so I've read up on this. There's a 5th member named Edna. It's actually her Goldfish that the band name was after, because the Goldfish was like the band mascot, and everyone loved him.
Yeah, they brought him to every show.
He could do tricks.
He was alive the entire time.
Yeah, the entire time. He's still going, frankly. It's a miracle.
Yeah, I should have caught an interview with Edna's Goldfish.
Yeah, he grows a kilo every time, but he's like a shark size now, dude.
Holy shit, dude. I can't imagine a shark-sized goldfish.
Like a small shark.
Oh. That's not as impressive.
Yeah, he's been growing like every year. He's recently got a starring role in a video game. You might be familiar with it. His character is called Moreau. He's in Resident Evil Village.
I didn't talk about Village. I should have. I love Village. Village is so fucking good.
So, that's mostly what I was looking up in my factual research time.
You looked up stuff about Village and then just stopped?
Anyway, so that's what the Edna's Goldfish. That's the name of it.
Wow, you're so.
And now you can experience.
Now you.
In the Village. Now you too.
You too can experience Edna's Goldfish in Punk Ska. Yeah, can I get back to my thing? My info
you knew
dump?
all about that, so you go on ahead and continue on to the next chapter of the factual statements I was going on about.
Oh, I'm debating cutting that out, but I liked how quick you were to improv that. I think I might leave it in.
We'll have to see.
We'll have to see. You're not gonna remember it by the time it comes out.
I will not. I never remember anything with you.
I love it. I love having this power, Austin. I can
enter a fugue state.
I can edit the past and make it so that things didn't happen.
I don't remember any of our shows. Like I enter a fugue state every single time I hit record on this podcast.
Anyway, the way the band started was it was sort of like a funk ska sound, like a funk ska band. I think they had harder bass lines and such. But the longer they were together, they wanted to play around with the rougher and edgier, the more rock-oriented sounds that bands were touring at the time. So they became sort of a ska punk band. Ska, in general, was no longer trendy towards the tail end of the 90s. But Edna's Goldfish was doing something that was very striking, and it resonated with a lot of people. If not necessarily right when it came out, then over time. Because I think time has been kind to the band as years have gone on. Its own circumstances never really led it to get super successful. They never got a proper record label to keep them going. They got Moonska, so Moonska helped them out. And while that makes me a bit sad, I am happy that this day, 2021, we can talk about this band and tell people what makes them so special. 20 years after the fact. Kind of like the same with the Skatalites. Even though it's been so many years and so many decades, the fact that this kind of music can still find new people is a majesty to me. I love that shit.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because like a band like this, had they just arrived on the scene maybe a few years earlier, like we're seeing a potential future for the band. Had they arrived on the scene a little bit earlier, been able to kind of find their place and stick together, they might have grown into one of like the tenant flagship ska bands of the third wave.
Yeah, absolutely.
But unfortunately, like we're in the timeline where that didn't quite happen.
Nah, but they still had a minor success in the album after the one we're going to talk about today. 1999's The Elements of Transition. That album had more of a hard rock style that they were aiming for, and it has the song Veronica Sawyer on it, which is a popular song from the band, and it got some MTV airplay. A lot of people seen the video. It's very catchy. It's a very good song. But the reason I recommended this album before you knew better was because that was what a lot of other ska fans recommended to me at the time, and I feel this is more emblematic of where the band sort of came into their own, like right after reforming the band and getting together, getting the right members. This album came out and they made them a little bit more popular. They got to tour, they got to play more shows, they got more experimental, and they wanted to play more than just ska later after this. But we are a ska podcast, so we're going to talk about this album. We're going to talk about Before You Knew Better.
This is the one that I am the most familiar with between the two.
Yeah, the other one I don't think I recommended to you as much, and it's not really as, ska-y as this one. But it's still pretty good. I like Elements of Transition. It's got some good songs on it, and some of those songs from that album are on the YouTube live performances, which I will refer back to several times, because there are 2 full live shows on YouTube that you can watch right now. I think both of them are from 1998, and there is a cassette recording from 1997 on Bandcamp that you can listen to of the band, and that is pretty much the only way we can listen to the band live. I think there may be some reunion show videos on YouTube too, but it's been a while. I have not checked consistently, but I watched those full performances. So before we talk about the album, as usual, I looked up all the band members that were credited on this release, so I'm gonna name them, say what they did, and if they did anything after the fact. I did what I could. Let me be real, it's been 20 years, so a lot of these people aren't as in the public spotlight as they were, but I tried my best, so bear with me.
Yeah, if we don't know, just assume that they went off to become a dentist or something.
Sure, yeah. Or a tattoo artist, something like that. So I brought him up earlier, but Brian Diaz is our lead singer, and also the guy who did the saxophone work on the album. He became a guitar technician in 2003 after quitting the other band he was in called The Reunion Show. He did bass for that. And he really likes touring because he still does guitar tech stuff full-time for Fall Out Boy. And he's done work for some other really big bands like Primus, Motion City Soundtrack, Guns N' Roses, and a bunch of others. He's been doing photography since 2020, and he wrote a book about his life touring called 1800 Miles to Nowhere. He found his calling helping other bands sound great on stage, and I really respect that. That's really admirable, and he clearly likes it.
Mm-hmm. We can't understate how important support techs are.
Yeah.
For putting on amazing shows.
Yeah.
And they really do deserve more love than they receive.
You can tell bands that do their own stuff and, tour around in a van compared to the people who have their setups, who can set up amps, who can make guitars sound good, who can repair stuff if they get broken, who know their shit. And Brian did that for a really long time, 18 years.
Tech work is an art and a science.
Yeah. So, guitar tech, good job. Good job with a lot of cool... You also get to tell a bunch of fun stories, which is why I'm glad he wrote a book, because he has a lot of cool tour stories. And if you want to hear him talk, he's on that podcast special interview I brought up earlier on In Defense of Ska. He was interviewed, and I refer back to that a lot, too. Okay, so horn players. One of the horn players, David Galea, was on trumpet, as well as the flugelhorn. He decided he didn't like being in a band as much, and he ended up working for a talent agency that the band was originally managed by. He later went on to work for United Talent Agency, and he worked for a ton of bands, Paramore, and X-Ambassadors, rock bands like that. And from the interviews I read, he likes getting bands booked, and he seems like a pretty straightforward kind of guy. I think Brian's spoken highly of him, too. I think David's a good dude. Other trumpeter, Gary Henderson, he's stuck around in music, and you'll be happy to know he co-leads a jazz band now called the Interplay Jazz Orchestra. They've released a couple albums in the past 10 years, and they're pretty damn talented. Good for Gary.
Jazz is pretty good.
Yeah, he co-leads a jazz band. They had a Kickstarter for their, I think their first album, and they did it. They pulled it off. Good shit. Other horn player Matt Holmgren was on trombone at the time. I could not find him online, so I can't confirm what he's been doing, but he is in the live performances on YouTube. He is the lanky guy on the far right playing trombone. The other horn players are on the left, he's on the right. So he's there, I saw him. That's the whole horn section. Moving on, we got guitarist Vincent McAuliffe, also known as Vinny. He is the lead guitarist. I can't say if he kept up with music either, but I saw him commenting on some Facebook posts of other ska bands, and that's all I've got. He's on Facebook, I guess. I don't have Facebook, I can't confirm. So, on bass guitar, we have David Ringel. I'm not sure if this is the same guy I looked up, but there is a David Ringel in a chiptune punk band called Weird at Last. And they're also from Long Island, so it could be the same guy. Same story, though. Other than that, I couldn't find the exact guy. I'm not sure if he did anything else. It's been 20 years. Hard to find research on these people who were in a small band. So, second bassist, not in the band, but credited on this album, we got John Middleman. He toured and recorded with the band, so he's on a couple of these tracks, but he's not a member. He moved to Nevada, and he formed a band called Grayscale in 2000, and he became a bass teacher, which he still does to this day. He got education in jazz training, and he puts that to use. So, he teaches other people how to play bass good.
This good bass in this album, so cool.
And last but not least, on drums, we got Mike Warner. And that's it. I don't know what Mike did. So that's all I got. That's everybody. That's everybody credited on the album. So, are you ready to talk about Before You Knew Better, Austin?
Could this possibly be like the most... Is this the most niche thing that we've had on the show?
The most niche?
Is this more niche than Sponge?
Oh, that's a good question. I think Bumpin' Uglies might actually be more niche.
Oh, I don't think so.
You don't think so? I mean, well, they've released a lot more music, to be fair.
I think Bumpin' has got quite the following.
Bumpin' never aired on MTV, though.
Well, sure, I'm calling more in like,
I think these are different kinds of niches we're talking about.
Bumpin' makes up for their current play though. Like they're currently unniche.
I think the real question you were asking though, is this more niche than Sponge? I don't know how many albums did Sponge put. Sponge put out like 4 albums, didn't they? Sponge.
I believe they did.
Wait, in 2019, Sponge toured with Real Big Fish.
Yeah, I noticed that there was some recent activity from Sponge.
What? Oh shit! I don't remember this at all.
They return. It begins again.
October 2019? Huh? When did we record the Sponge episode? We recorded the Sponge episode of like the middle of 2018, didn't we?
I believe so.
Oh my god! So I completely missed this. How old is this? I'm gonna bring up our podcast while I'm talking about while we're recording a new episode of the podcast. This was recorded mid 2018, yeah. So a year and a half later, they released a live album and they toured with Real Big Fish.
So we can only assume that our podcast revitalized the desire for Sponge music among the populace.
They demanded more Sponge. They were like, hey, what's this UK band? I've never heard of them. Let's look them up. Whoa, we need a new Sponge album, guys.
I was listening to the Road Boys podcast, and then suddenly all I wanted to do was to be kicking the pigeons in the park. Please make more music. And then they came back.
Sponge released like 8 albums, dude. I mean, 2 of them are live albums, and I think one's a cover album. But yeah, they released several. So yeah, I'm gonna say they're much more popular than they're less niche than Edna's Goldfish. I think Edna's is more niche.
However, again, the being niche by no means means that they are no good.
No, not at all. Most definitely not. I think it adds a certain kind of appeal. I mean, there's a lot of bands that we don't know about. And when I find them, and when I want to talk about them, I bring them up on the podcast. I did it with Bumpin' Uglies, and I'm going to do it with Edna's Goldfish, because I really want to talk about this album. Austin, so can we do it? Can we talk about Before You Knew Better?
Before I Know Better?
With track 1 of the album, I'm Your Density.
This song must be very uncomfortable for dyslexics.
Yeah, numerous people have misread it as I'm Your Destiny. And Brian had to credit himself for both versions because it's been registered wrong a bunch of times. So he had to get songwriting credit by registering it as I'm Your Destiny as well.
I really don't know if it's like I'm torn equally between it being a funny bit and also like a terribly dumb idea to call it that.
It's it's on your density. I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a reference to Back to the Future, where George McFly, is trying to talk to Lorraine, and he says,
I'm your density.
And he waits a really long time.
Your destiny.
I mean, my destiny. He doesn't realize his mistake for a while. But I haven't seen Back to the Future in years, so I don't know. Anyway, I'm your density. What about, what do you feel about this song, Austin?
So, the thing with Edna's, especially on this album, is that the way I feel about one song is gonna correlate to the way I feel about a lot of the songs.
There's your preface, every album. Go ahead.
This one, more so than any band, I would say. When it comes to songs, I'm gonna let out a little bit out of my bag on the overall feelings of the album, but I feel like there is a big through line stylistically from all of these songs. Like they're more homogenous in the style, like the structure of these songs. So the way I feel about one song will often follow through for the whole album for the most part.
Okay, all right. It's gonna be another one of those.
I will dig into it the further we go along, but I will say that I'm Your Density is a pretty good start to this album. It's got a good hook, very great momentum, and the one thing I have to give, because like I also hold up that this band is like a great core example of third wave ska.
Yes.
Like it is quintessential.
Like this is 97 we're talking about. This is pretty peak time.
The thing I would give Edna's for me that they do the best, that I find the most impressive and that I like the most from them, is the lyrical flow within each song.
We're going to talk about songwriting quite a bit on this album, and that's because I think Brian's a really good songwriter. Right off the bat, I wrote, the band feels very in sync on this recording. The horns are in tune. Brian's vocals stand out as an outlier to his other contemporaries at the time. He's got a penchant for yes that I know you like.
We both like the yes, yeah.
It doesn't quite get to the point as the guy from Sponge, as Alex from Sponge, but he does get close. And later on in the album, he does get one that's extremely close to Alex's yes. And I think it's a very strong opener. And if you know me...
And he never says pick it up at the end of a song.
Yes, that's true. He doesn't say pick it up at the end of a song like Alex does. So Brian's got a point on the scoreboard for that. I think it's a strong opener. I love strong openers, Austin. So...
It is a good opener.
Yeah.
This song in particular it's very crisp. It's very crisp sounding. And it's got a very like pointed instrumentation throughout the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So it's like whenever the 1 or 3 hits in the bars, you feel it. So that's why when you're hearing them, you like, oh, the band is very synced or whatever. It's because they're all hitting those 1s and 3s like really hard in this sone.
You like to hear it. It's pretty good.
It's a pretty good opener.
Usually they open it at live shows, but not always.
I think it's a good one to start with for sure.
They played a lot live. I think honestly this could have been a single. I think people like this one quite a bit. What do you think? Do you think this would do well as a single?
I tend to agree. As a single, I think it would do quite well.
It's not my top 3, but it is my number 4 on the record.
I mean, based on the very unscientific data point of plays as seen in Spotify, this is the 3rd most played song of the album.
Oh, right. You listen to it on Spotify, so you could tell me what the people think, that because I couldn't check.
So we have very nebulous analytics through, the Spotify UI.
Listening statistics. This is in the top 3?
But yeah, I'm Your Density comes in at 125,000 plays.
That's pretty good. That's not bad at all.
No, not bad at all for Edna's, for sure.
I think some of that must be because it's the first track of an album, right, though? Because, I mean, people can hear the first track, and then the tracks after that don't get as much playtime, obviously, because it's the first one.
I don't believe that it's the case, actually. I believe that this is coming through what I would call, because looking at the actual distribution of plays on this album, if that were the case, you would expect sort of a more consistent drop-off throughout the entirety of the album, but that's not how you see these things distributed.
No, really?
I believe that the few high points I see in this album are purely down to people who are familiar with Edna's and producing like ska playlists of their favorite songs.
Right, yeah, I've seen that.
And then re-listening to them or sharing said playlist. And then the algorithm picks up on what ska fans are enjoying from Edna's the most, and then those songs that they like the most end up in rotations for radio like plays from other ska bands who get to experience them by discovery.
Gotcha.
And so you kind of get snowballing on a few of like the hits the general audience looking for ska music would want to hear the most.
Yeah. Even though they only had one big single with Veronica Sawyer, I think there are several hit-worthy songs on this album.
I believe that is so, and there are 2 other songs within this album that hit the above 100,000 number
Nice.
on the thing.
That's pretty good. That's not bad.
This is how I found Edna's, was because they've got a few songs which easily flow into the algorithm for ska playlists.
Okay, I can see that.
If you are a ska fan who is discovering new bands through Spotify, you will have heard of Edna, and you will recognize them.
That's so crazy that they have a much easier way of being heard now than they did without a major label 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Okay, well, does this make your top 5?
You put this at your number 4.
This is my number 4. Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I love it because it's a strong opener. I love strong openers.
I put it at the 3 spot.
Oh, this is your number 3. This is higher than mine. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's pretty good. I'm curious to see what's higher and lower then.
I think it is worthy. We're always curious what the other person's numbers lay out.
Yeah, we are. That's pretty close though. Number 3 and number 4, that's basically interchangeable.
Basically. They're basically the same number.
No, not really, but
and
still.
4 and 5 are basically the same number too. You know what? We shouldn't even have numbers.
All right,
Everything is a 1.
I get it. It's a good bit, but I'm done with it. Anyway, speaking of numbers, what comes after 1, Austin? Track 2.
I mean, track 2 will come eventually. Anyway.
I saw you sitting there, looking on top of the world. He was holding you like you were his. You didn't see me, but I was there last time. His arms around you, holding you tight. Well, now I know that you are in mine. One more time.
I wrote that in my notes, you fuck. I'm print screen. Hang on.
Fine, you do it.
No. You stole my segue before I even said it. Hold on. Look at this shit.
Did I deliver it funnier than you would?
Yes, you did! Because your delivery is funnier than me. Look at my notes. You fuck. I wrote pause. Anyway.
You did. He has, in fact, written that exact phrase in here.
I'm going to put this in the visual episode so people can see I wrote the note down and he stole it from me, this fuck.
I did say it almost word for word. Holy shit.
I know. Austin doesn't see my notes. I have my notes on my own screen. He's over there. So he would not have seen that I had the exact same segue. Look, we're not original. We're not funny. So let's talk about track 2.
I didn't have to write it down first though. Sorry, man. Hey.
I didn't have to write it down. Alright, look, this one has some harder guitars on it, and it has an angrier chorus. I wrote, it's very bitter. There are a couple bitter songs on this album, but I think track 2 is the most bitter.
Yeah, this one's the most, obviously.
Yeah, it's about seeing a girl you wanted to be with and knowing she isn't yours and just seething about it. So, Austin, I have to ask, and I wrote this in my notes, is this a song about big incel energy?
Dude, I fucking thought the exact same thing when I heard it.
I knew it.
There's a thin line. There's such a thin line between like a song
about missing a girl and just being creepy.
Yeah. It's such a thin line. It's unfortunate because it's like I'm sure it's really hard when you're writing a song, especially like for some reason a song with like a punk kind of feel about it, where it's like if you are, wallowing. It's a tightrope act, dude. It's something about you have to avoid like sounding entitled. You have to avoid sounding too angry, like selfishly angry, and all this kind of stuff.
And he wrote this when he was pretty young. He was still in his teenage years when he wrote this.
Yeah, it also comes from when you're kind of young. It's really difficult to avoid incel energy.
Well, I mean that little to you eventually anyway.
Holy fuck, it's a little rife with incel energy, but it's excusable. As I said, this is one of the other songs which escapes kind of high in the Spotify algorithm. It's another one of the Ednas I hear pop up in playlists often.
This one does?
This one has 148,000 plays on Spotify.
Whoa, that's way high. I would have expected like 70 something, 70K.
It's the second most listened to song on this album.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, they play it at live shows and people seem to really like it. I thought over putting it in my top 5 actually. I like Brian's word choice on this, and I like it's sort of like dark and it's kind of angry, so it's much punkier than the other ska songs on this album. But the horns feel underutilized. They're not given enough room to play around outside of the pre and post chorus, and I don't think the production is that good, but I do like every song on this record, so I'm going to be gushing about plenty of other stuff, but this one didn't make it in my top 5. But wow, that's surprising. A lot of people like this one, huh?
Again, we have a good example of like really good lyrical flow. One thing I would say, I feel like Brian is a really good vocal songwriter.
Yes.
Maybe too much of a good vocal songwriter, because it almost feels like he crowds out the ability for the rest of the band to do much out front.
Really?
If you understand me?
Oh, I haven't thought about that, but that makes sense.
I don't know if you realize it through other songs, but maybe you will on a revisit to it. But if you're actually someone who enjoys like a good instrumental solo, like they exist. They're almost on every single song. But you would think that they don't, because they're at most, if you're lucky, someone will get 8 bars. They're
relegated to the back and gets buried by the vocals around.
When the songs are typically as fast as they are with this band, 8 bars goes across. They disappear in an instant.
Can I mention how short these songs are, man? Oh my goodness, this album is a breeze. I've listened to this thing so many times just because it's so easy to just blaze through the whole album in a half hour.
It's a 30-minute album.
It's so short. I mean, it's great, but it's also kind of, you can feel it. You can feel how breezy it is.
Yeah.
So I see exactly what you mean by how fast 8 bars can go by.
They go by really fast, and the actual, like, what the instruments are doing with those 8 bars, they're very simple. It's an extremely simple solo.
Yeah.
Which, if you consider that the music was written by, younger kids, not even kids, like, younger dudes, then, like, yeah, if you're in high school and you like Edna's Goldfish, you can play every solo in the song.
I'll assume in 94 he was about 16, so he would be like 19 at this time, I think. I don't have his exact age, but I'm assuming that if you were at McDonald's, you were probably like 15, 16, and then like 3 years later, I'd say you're about 19.
You know, it's a huge shame, because I wish the band did continue to go on and do big stuff, especially with all like the jazz DNA that appears to be infused within the players themselves.
Yes. Yeah, there are quite a few of it.
There is quite a lot of importance put on your improv skills when it comes to jazz music. I wish that they had continued, because Edna's Goldfish, with the band having evolved over into like their mid-20s, like the improv solos could be amazing. Stretched out maybe to 16 bars.
There's some good stuff. I mean, there's longer songs on the next album on Elements of Transition. So if you want that kind of stuff, it does exist.
I'm talking about this album for right now, but I'm not, like I said, I'm not as familiar with the other albums, sadly. I think the lyrics themselves, I feel, not so much with this song, but with other songs, can be a bit vague. With this song, it's the lyrical choice in this song is not bad. The flow is fantastic as always. The actual lyrical flow that Brian does is amazing throughout all of these songs. And it's really interesting that the flow he has is so good that the song can be made out of like 4 unique flow styles. Like there are 4 unique like segments to the song, and they each flow into each other seamlessly.
That's so cool. I'm glad you said that.
It's very difficult to write a song which you could identify like 4 different like biomes of music.
The sections, the segments of it.
And they meld together with like no seam. It's all a pure natural transition one to the other effortlessly.
I'll say that this is extremely impressive for a first album. There's a lot going on in this album, actually. I think your thing about it being the tracks being homogenous and sort of bleeding into each other, being, consistent, I think, like, that's a plus, I think, because that means the band knows their strengths and they play to them. And B, I think there's a lot of different things going on here. I mean, a lot of it is in Brian's vocal work, because it's extremely impressive the things he can do at such a young age. But also, there's some different songs in here. Not the next one. I want to talk about when we get to track 4. But there's some really cool, unique stuff in here that even other ska bands at the time were not doing. So, I don't know. I disagree a little bit. But anyway, does this make your top 5?
This one does not.
Okay, all right. So the audience likes this one. We know that. But neither of us liked it enough to put it in our favorites.
No, not me, unfortunately.
All right. So, you want to move on to the next one?
Do you have a funny bit for this one? No?
I'll let my silence be the lead into the track.
Okay, well, I guess I was expecting something, but I should have just expected just a little less. This song is called Just Less.
Well, you just You just
the shortest song on the album. Literally barely over 2 minutes.
Funnily, also my shortest notes on the album.
You're the shortest. Okay, well, this one gets its point across in record time, I wrote, and I really like it. I think this is a great crowd pleaser. It has some more bitter lyrics, but instead of missing out on a relationship and feeling like you're nothing or wallowing in it, this one is about being pissed off about inequality and living in New York City. And Brian immediately said that in the live shows. He said, this song's about living in New York. So the rich are rewarded, the poor are brushed aside. It's sad, but it's very true. And I can definitely see a punk band from Long Island writing this song and turning it into a ska song. So what do you think, Austin?
I can definitely see how New York in the 90s would inspire such a song. I'm a big fan of like the varied vocal delivery within the song, and Brian again has very good syncopation. The bass work throughout the whole thing is very good in this song.
I gotta make another compilation of every time you say syncopation.
I like it though, so obviously I'm gonna bring it up.
You do. It's
I like
good.
Syncopation.
I like this one more and more every time I listen to it, and I think this type of song makes the album perfect for putting it on during road trips and keeping the energy up, and this helps because this is track 3, which is normally like the big single spot on albums. We talked about this before, but it was not a single. I think it's really fucking good. It made my number 3. I really like Just Less. I sing it a lot. It's really fun, and it's tight, and it's so short, but no time is wasted, and I value that a lot. I think Just Less is fucking great. A really good example of what the band does super well.
This band they tend to trim the fat quite a bit. It's all very lean musically, the way it's designed. So with Just Less, it's short, it's sweet, it's punchy. It's got very good vocal bass. The theme is great. It really captures what they're going for.
Yeah, you like clear themes and all and songs when they're not vague, right?
I that's exactly what I like, and I'm glad that this song captures the theme, even with sort of Brian's general propensity to more vague lyricism in the other songs. It's a good song. It doesn't make my top 5. It might have made a 6th spot.
Okay, well that's still pretty good.
But I certainly do like it though.
On a 12-track album, number 6 is nothing to sneeze at.
No. I think this is a very good song.
I'm curious now. Do you know the Spotify plays on this one?
This one
This is played live a lot too. I saw this on both.
Let's see here. Amongst the album, it is still sort of near. It's kind of near the bottom of the album, or near the middle bottom. It's at a 23,500.
Wow, that's a significant dip.
Yeah, so that's the disparity we're seeing just within this album.
Wow, so this is in the bottom rank in terms of popularity.
I will say the song on here with the lowest amount of plays just clocks in at 12,000.
Okay, well, I'll be curious to find out which one that is. But I'm more curious to see what you think about the next song. Track 4 is called Sunrise to Sunset.
Yeah.
Wrote, this song is very sublime sounding, and it's got some of the best vocalizations from Brian and some of the best horn lines on the whole album. This song is a fucking jam, Austin. This is one of the first songs that I heard from Edna's Goldfish, and I think now that I have the context of the album, I think it is a standout track. It's got amazing performances from Brian and from the band. I can see this song inspiring kids all around the world to get into playing in a band, and it's my number 1. It's easy number 1.
It's my number 1 as well. It's kind of obvious.
I knew it. I knew you would.
It's kind of obvious.
It's so good. It's so pretty sounding. I love it.
It's got a really good hook. The general theming and feel of the song is exactly what I'm into. You know, I like a good sad ska jam. Those sad boy ska music.
The melancholy ska songs.
Specifically, I jam to Melancholy.
Yes.
It's like a specific thing where it's like, okay, it's a bit melancholic, but like a persistent vibe along with the melancholy.
Is this the what went wrong of the album?
I you know what it is.
I mean, Brian's singing it. He didn't get a different singer for this one, but it's just the stuff he does on this song is incredible. It's, it's a laid-back song, all things considered. I mean, coming in between this is sandwiched in between Just Less and the next song. So it's very chill in comparison, but they played it live, and people still really like it. Like, the audience was feeling it. My only minor problem is with the outro, which I think sounds beautiful, but it fades out really quickly. Just a little too quickly for my taste.
I have it in the notes as well. It's a bit anticlimactic, but I kind of feel...
If that could go on for just a few more seconds and I could just savor it.
The savory, sleepy dog smell.
I understand why, you wouldn't love it. I kind of feel like the anticlimax at the end kind of works for it. Mm-hmm. So I don't really mind it too much. I could take it or leave it.
I love it. I love the song a lot. I'm sad when it's over. I'm sad.
It's a very good one. It's obviously my favorite of the album, and yours, and Spotify's.
What's the Spotify play?
This one clocks in at 200,023.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think this is one of the best songs the band has ever written and performed, and I think other people agree. Sunrise to Sunset is fan-fucking-tastic.
I wish we had a little bit more like this.
Yeah, that's true. It's the fact that it's a standout implies that nothing else ever really comes as close to this, except maybe Veronica Sawyer, I think. Veronica Sawyer is also very popular. Oh, you're on Spotify right now. Can you tell me what that has? If you look on the band's Elements of Transition, can you look at what Veronica Sawyer is? Because we're not going to talk about that song on this
Veronica
episode.
Sawyer has less, surprisingly.
It has less than this, really?
Veronica Sawyer comes in at basically a flat 200,000.
Wow! So this song has 20,000 more listens than Veronica Sawyer.
Mm-hmm.
The people have been proven right with time. As I say, time has been kinder to this band than they were at the time.
I will say that Veronica Sawyer might be higher, but I think that the album, the Elements album, is maybe not being as tickled by the algorithm as Before You Knew Better.
Yeah, it's not as promoted, most likely. The whole album.
Yes. So because of the same algorithmic trickery I was saying before, just because I think having some big hits in your album kind of brings the rest of the album along with it in a way on the algorithm. Mm-hmm. So with Elements having a few, basically the only huge smacker and Elements is Veronica Sawyer. So it's not being elevated by the other songs in the album.
The other song, yeah, I get it. All right. Even though there are some other good songs on Elements of Transition, I wish I could talk about them, but this is the album I want to talk about, and this song is a 10 out of 10 for me. I love hearing this song every time it comes on. Absolute jam.
I agree. This is a song I'll never skip when it comes into my playlist. I will say, iterating on my last example of the band being very efficient, kind of trimming the fat on a lot of their music design-wise, Sunrise to Sunset has some fat on it, but
we like it for that.
Exactly. That's the thing,
It's tasty. It's got the meat. It's got the meats.
Fat is flavor. And Sunrise to Sunset has flavor that I like. I kind of wish that some of the other music in the album had a little bit more flavor.
Okay, I understand. You don't really like the leanness as much as I do.
Yeah, I think it's very lean and polished in a way.
We'll get plenty of meat next episode. Don't you worry.
Definitely.
This is the appetizer. This is the tasty.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the appetizer that's sometimes a meal,
Yeah. So
for
it's
people with light stomachs like me.
The next episode will have meat, but in this episode, this is not here.
Seems like I just learned to care. I know that you will, but don't you dare point your staring.
I was gonna say, so that's where we stand on that episode. That's there. But Austin, this is not here. I had even a worse segue.
Song number
I had a
5.
terrible setup to it. This is track 5, and I wrote in my notes, I brought up to you earlier, I said this is the most Animal Chin sounding song. And that's going to be obscure for people who do not know who Animal Chin are. That's a 90s early pop-punk sounding band, and you can hear a lot of the pop-punk style vocals that were around in the late 90s can come through on some of Brian's performances. Even so much so that they had a song, I asked Brian about this, in the live performances, they had a song, Edna's Goldfish had a song called Relate, but it was never recorded and released anywhere. So I asked Brian, because he uploaded the live show on YouTube, I asked him, hey man, I love this live show, thanks for uploading this. Hey, there's a song in here called Relate, do you guys have a recording lying around? Because I really like it, and I want to hear more of it. And he said, and I quote, he said, we never recorded that song because ultimately we realized it is a direct ripoff of an Animal Chin song. And he wrote, oops. Oops. Yeah, we didn't record. So, I mean, there's something to be said about them writing and performing a song live for people that they never recorded because they looked back at it and realized, wait, this sounds exactly like another band. Well, we don't want to copy them, so we're just not going to record it.
Yeah, I will say, it cannot be argued that any of the songs on this album sound like another band.
Yeah, that's true. That's very much true. These sound very unique, and I think that's a good example of trimming off the fat. This album has trimmed off stuff that didn't need to be on it, so all the tracks on here needed to be on here, and they deserved a spot. I don't have any skips on this album. Spoiler alert right there. I like all the tracks on here for different reasons.
So, Animal Chin.
Yeah, I talked about Animal Chin. I did some research. I listened to some songs. I listened to Sex Song and Bleed. And I really enjoy those songs. This song, Brian noted in the live performances he sung, this is the whoa 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 song.
Yeah.
It's got the whoas. It's got loud guitars with plenty of distortion, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. So I like those parts about it, but it did not make my top 5. So
it didn't make mine either. I will say it's got an excellent bridge in it, and
yes.
I think the chorus is just fine in this one. It's nothing amazing, the chorus.
Almost is a dirty word when you're 17. That's a good line. I like almost is a dirty word when you're 17.
It's a fine lyric, that one.
Yeah, that's a little clever. Yeah, but the rest of the song, yeah.
Again, kind of maybe playing into my idea that he's so good at lyricism he forgets to let the instruments do anything. But the lyricism, with the lyrics kind of taking a little bit of a backseat in here.
I'm glad we get to talk about this on the episode.
We actually get some instrumentation poking out a little bit more than they normally would have around here.
Yeah, it has a cool bass line breakdown. I wrote that down.
It has an okay trumpet solo hidden in here as well.
Yeah, I want to mention the breakdown especially because the band uses this time live to squeeze in a little bit of another song, as ska bands often do. Brian starts singing Girls by the Beastie Boys over that bass line breakdown during the interlude. He goes, girls, all I really want is girls. It's pretty great. I like that song also, so I thought that was pretty fun. And that reminds me of a lot of the stuff Real Big Fish would do. So that was pretty neat. But yeah, not a top 5 for me. That part is not on the studio recording, so it's just the breakdown. That's all we get. But it's a fun song. I don't think I'd put it at 6 or 7, but I think it's pretty good. I think I'd put it maybe in the 8-9 variety.
I have to agree on that one.
It's got that pop punk styling that I like from bands like Suburban Legends, or that era of Suburban Legends that I talked about, like Tim. Which another song actually comes closer to it, but not. But this one is sort of on that level. I feel like he's kind of a bit of a vocal chameleon because he channels a lot of other singers that I'm familiar with and like, but he can do it just by himself, just one guy. It's kind of impressive, honestly. But that's how I feel about it. So, what do you think? This doesn't make your top 5 either.
Not my top 5, but I could consider putting it at. I could see it being in a 6 or 7 spot.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so right underneath. That's pretty good. So Austin, let me sit you down. Let me tell you a story.
Let me tell you the story of me old bones.
This is track 6. It's called Story.
I mean, I guess, yeah, that was kind of the obvious way to do that one.
Tell you the story of me old bones. Now I get to have a German clip in the episode. I win. So, this is the first song that has a bass line opener. Like a strong bass line opener before Brian comes in heavy with the yeah! I knew you would like the yeah!
Yeah.
I think that delivers. That's a good opener. This is the one I think that reminds me the most of Sponge. But the vocals also remind me of Chris DeMarcus from Less Than Jake. I feel like he gets the closest to that style of singing here. I won't play by your rules, I can't say that, they're fair. It reminds me a lot of Chris DeMarcus. It's very punky, it's simple. I wasn't interested in blasting it over and over like I was other songs, but it's great live. I loved watching them live because the crowd fucking jumps, everybody on stage is jumping. Mm-hmm. I could see maybe some crowd surfing.
I can definitely see that, yeah.
This is a really fun song. Again, not in my top 5, but a fun, good song.
This one has great delivery on the chorus. This one's sold by the way that the lyrics are delivered. And as you said, this is one which is obviously a great song live. It's very bouncy.
Yeah, it's a great song to jump to, so if you want to jump.
This is a good song to jump to.
Yeah, this is a jumpy song.
I think the latter half of the song is a bit disappointing. Like, it isn't quite as good as it could have been, the latter half of the song. The bits of the song I do like, I liked quite a bit, so I have it at my number 5 spot.
Oh, this makes the top 5. It's got to be the Yeah, right? The Yeah is an automatic +1.
It's the same kind of like Chris Damakis delivery that you were talking about.
He's got like really good yelling vocals on this song, which is pretty good. That's what you want for a punk song.
It's the delivery, it's the bounce. It's like, it's got kind of flavorful fat that I want to grab onto. I desperately want for things to grab onto in this song so that I can, like, you know, wrestle them a little bit. And
so that one made it into your top 5.
This one gives me something to bite into.
But not as much on the second half? You feel it loses steam?
It loses a bit of steam. Like, it kind of, I feel like it doesn't, it builds and then plateaus a bit.
I see what you mean. The build-up is really good, but it gets to that energy and then it just kind of sits there.
This is a fine song, but it leads to another thing I've got to say about the band, because even though I feel it's very lean, which isn't exactly what I'm down for, I tend to want some, like, more interesting things to grab onto, because I like things to be very singable. So it's like I want something, like, to really hook me in a way that I can recall it easily and then sing it at a little later time.
Ooh, that's a good segue into the next song. I'll pocket that.
For me, doesn't do that very well, but what Edna does do very well, due to that leanness, is it carries itself to be a very good ska dance kind of album. The entire time I listened to this album, even though some of the tracks kind of bled into each other in a way that I don't love, my feet weren't still for a second of the whole thing.
You felt like dancing, right?
Yeah, this is like, some people can't have lyrics in some music when they need to, like, focus on homework and stuff. I believe those people could listen to this album and not have a problem. I believe basically, for the most part, the lyrics actually written down in all of these songs are almost pointless. Like, it's just about the bounce, the momentum, and the danceability, which Edna's does brilliantly.
Okay, well, I disagree with the first part of your sentence, but I agree with the second part, so I will nod my head and say, sure, yeah. I am excited to talk about the next song, though, because you mentioned having choruses that are very singable, and I think track 7, A Perfect Day, has one of those.
Got so many problems I can get them off my mind. But there's no need to argue when it happens all the time.
So I've got down here that this whole song here starts with what I consider, like, the most quintessential third wave guitar.
I agree with that. It's very lighthearted, I wrote, in terms of songwriting. It doesn't commit to a feel-good sound, but it does brighten my day overall. Like, I like the choruses, I like the singing. You got me running through your mind. This was so close to my top 5, man. I have to put this at, like, number 6. This is so... God, I wrestled with getting this one on my top 5 because it's fun. It's really fun and it's nice. And it's also technically the longest song on the album. It's 3 minutes and 31 seconds. That's a long song to this band, or to this album anyway. What do you think about the meat on this one? I mean, I think the pace of the tracks up till now have led up to this song pretty well.
I find it still a bit lame, but I think I can see why you would love this song for sure, because it makes you happy, it makes you want to move. This is another one that I feel leans itself very heavily to just, like, get up and move kind of a thing. More than any other song in this album, I picture this one. When I think of this song, I picture you dancing in your room kind of a thing.
I danced to a lot of these songs, let me tell you. But this one, yeah. It reminds me a lot of running on a treadmill from Oingo Boingo, actually. Which both songs have courses about running, which I like. I believe I brought this up to you, but I am a big fan of running. That's the weird thing to mention, but there you go. So, Austin, you ready to segue into the next one? I got a good one for this one.
Oh yeah? Are we doing a Jack Bauer joke? Is that still topical?
No, not doing a Jack Bauer joke. I said, here I go. You know, Austin, it's been a few years since we started this podcast, but back in 2018, you know how old I was when we started this podcast, Austin?
A natural line delivery, Kyle?
I was 24! the bit. That's what you came here. This is what you want. So track 8 is called 24. I think Brian syncs up with the horns on this track really well, but it's not produced as well as I would have liked. The guitar and the bass are both drowned out during the chorus. Couldn't really appreciate them very much. I think it could have been a hit for the band. It's really fun to listen to. I had a lot of fun, and there's actually a really fun horn solo towards the end of this song. Mm-hmm. I think it's the flugelhorn, so it could have been David Galea.
It sounded like trombone to me.
But it could have been, yeah, okay. If it was trombone, then it's Matt Holmgren. I'll have to ask Brian after this episode. But yeah, it's such like an amateur solo. It's I don't remember if it's in the live performances or not, but it's like just not good enough. It's kind of brilliant because it reminds me a lot of these kinds of bands in the 90s.
It's like I said, it's a very short and simple solo.
Yeah.
All of them, there's a short and simple solo in almost all of these songs, but you just forget about it because it goes by in a millisecond. It's in like half a second and it's gone.
I wanted to point it out on this song though, because it's so like amateur. I like it.
The opening of this song is different from a lot of the other ones with a half decent like guitar and bass riff.
Yeah.
The bass is very driving through this, and I feel like there's a decent like kind of classic rock DNA built in a little bit. I feel like he's trying to do like a classic rock kind of like sort of like the Bad Boy song that you used to see in like late 70s, early 80s rock music. He's kind of going for that like that bad boy vocal delivery, if you get me.
Okay, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, this kind of stuff will pop up on Elements of Transition also, when they were leaning more into the rock type sound. Not quite similar to this, but in the same vein. We'll get songs like this on the next album. Or, yeah. But as of, on this one, how do you feel about it? This didn't make my top 5, but how do you feel about it?
Yeah. Other than what I said, I think near the later half of this song, like the vocals actually get a little more interesting, but nah, not the top 5 for me.
Okay, that's fair. I don't really have too much to say about it other than that. You want to move on?
Yeah. So I don't know. I know that like Morshu is a big fan of this next song, dude. You know Morshu?
Yeah, I know RTX on.
Yeah. So it's like he tells me all the time. He's like, if you want it,
you want it.
It's yours, my friend.
It's yours, my friend.
And then this is the song he plays.
Oh, God. Track 9. If you want it.
Yeah, you can get it if you want it.
Bomb.
Lab oil. Oh.
If you want it.
As long as you have boobies. Alright, look. This song is so much fucking fun, dude. The whole band is firing on all cylinders. It's got great horns, great vocalizations from Brian. It's just a joy. I fucking love If You Want It, dude. This reminded me a lot of Tim from Suburban Legends.
I take it is not major top 5.
Yeah, sure. Oh, no, you know, I have a lot of problems with it, actually. Now, it's very pop-punk. This style would become super popular in the early 2000s, so it's kind of crazy that he used it here in the late 90s in 97, and he does it really well. Like, it's kind of impressive how good this song sounds for being so old. This is my number 2. I was really close at putting it at number 1, but Sunrise to Sunset kind of captured my heart better, and it couldn't quite topple it. But man, I love If You Want It, dude. This song, I imagine it would kill at live shows, but there's no recordings of it. There's no live recordings of the song, and that's such a shame because I really like it.
I feel we're getting some of that. We're getting some more like other genre influence in this one, I think, as well. Like you said, like a little bit of a funk background.
Yeah.
Maybe like a touch of R&B, just a little snuck in there.
There are distinct sections of this song too. You brought that up in an earlier one, but I think this one it splits up its sections pretty well.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like all of these songs. All of them, again, distinct sections. There isn't...
But seamless.
Yeah.
You can't, like, tell... Like, the whole song doesn't stop to split, you know?
Yeah, they flow fairly seamlessly.
And this song is fast. Not as fast as a song after this, but this song is pretty fucking fast.
Yeah, definitely not as fast as a song after this, but
I'm glad we know what we're talking about.
yeah, it was one that I was kind of like on the fence about, but then it kind of continues. This is a song that does get better the longer it goes.
The energy is insane too.
Yeah, I do like it after we get like that vocal change, which he does twice. We get a little bit of group singing and a half decent solo for the sax player, I believe.
Yeah, that's him. He did the sax on the album. So Brian also did the sax.
So I gotta give it. More Shoes Got Taste, dude. I gave this one a 4.
This is your number 4?
Yeah.
Not 4 out of 10. This is not the rating.
Yeah.
The number on your list.
I gave it the number 4
Right.
in my top 5.
This song's brought to you by the number 4.
Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Yeah.
There you go. So pretty good. Number 4 and number 2, interchangeable, right?
And it's
just numbers.
Yeah, it's the same as being number 5 or number 1, frankly.
I wish I could name this like my 1.5 because it's so close to being number 1. If Sunrise to Sunset wasn't as amazing as it was, this would be my number 1. But it's number 2. That's still really good. That's really good. This song appeals to me. It's a joy, absolutely. Everything in this song works for me. I have no issues with it. Great fucking song. I just wish it was live. I wish I could see a live showing of it.
Well, someday after another 20 years, they'll get together for a reunion tour.
Yeah, the last reunion tour was in 2012, I think. So not tour. They played one show. The last reunion show was 9 years ago. So another decade, maybe, maybe next year, maybe 2022. We'll see Edna's Goldfish once more. So all right, let's move on. Next song, track 10. It's the color that's mixed between. How do you get this again? Is it red and green?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Color wheel. I don't want to look like an idiot. Color wheel.
It's not that. It's not red and green. It's red and blue, Kyle.
It's red and blue.
Yeah.
You know what red and blue makes, Austin?
Blello.
Blello.
Let me steal that Malcolm in the Middle bit. I've invented a new color. I call it Blello.
I'm glad we got a Malcolm in the Middle reference in this episode. Track 10 is called Purple. That tasted purple. Alright, so this song does have a live performance. And I'm glad it does. Because guess what, Austin? Purple is my number 5. Dropping it right now.
Your number 5?
Yeah, Purple makes my number 5.
Is that too high?
No.
No.
I think it's just high enough for this song because it's catchy, it's really fun to sing. I love the chorus. Oh my god, this is one of my favorite choruses on the whole album. Fucking, what would you do if it were you? It's so good. Holy shit. And it's seemingly about being a victim of domestic violence, which is a rough topic, but the songwriting is so good. I don't mind singing a song about this. And Brian does some cool fucking and some skanking type vocalizations on this track. He just
Yeah, it's a nice moody song. This is one this has got good lyrics in it for sure.
One of the best trumpet solos too. The trumpet solo on this song is really good. And that's Gary Henderson killing it on this track.
It could be the inexperience in the brass players at the time, but they seem to play better when they're a little lower in the register. The brass in this one are playing pretty low, which makes them sound nicer. We get a good trumpet solo in this one. Good theming. This is one where it seems like he's got a good mix of being specific and yet vague at the same time. Where my issue with some of the other songs is that it's too vague without any kind of specificity to really garner anything like narrative wise out of it. This one doesn't need that.
I feel like all the themes on this album 80% of the themes on this album come through pretty clear.
But this one has enough of the fat on it, like I said, for me to bite into. This is my number 2.
I had a feeling it would get up there for you. I feel like you like these kinds of like dark ska songs, and this is up there.
I do. This is a good song, good theme, good delivery. We even got a balance where Brian can do good lyricism and good lyric delivery while also letting the instruments do their work. So it's like
he said he wrote a new page in his book. I'd like to know if this is at all true.
Yeah, everybody gets to shine.
It's so good. I love it.
Sadly, this isn't one of the songs on Spotify which shows like huge numbers.
No, it doesn't?
Of the songs that aren't tracking above 100,000, this is like tied with the fourth highest song on there. It's Purple and This Is Not Here. Those are the two songs that are almost hitting
wow
40,000 plays on their
That's kind of cool. You know what? I can kind of see that. I think both of these together would probably have about the same amount of popularity. I can kind of see that. But I like it better than This Is Not Here, honestly. I think it deserves higher. But it's got great live performances, so if you want to see the band kicking ass, look up the live shows on YouTube and you can see Purple on there.
Yeah, I could definitely see this one in a good dark venue being just a real banger.
Mm-hmm, yep. And one last thing I want to mention, not about the track itself, but the transition from the song before If You Want It into Purple, I feel is one of the most satisfying track transitions on the record. Both songs are fun, but in different ways, and going from that into Purple is really cool for me. And they're both in my top 5, so I wouldn't consider this album all that front-loaded if my other two top 5s are on the back half. So there you go, that's track 10. You want to talk about track 11, Austin?
The track 11.
Yeah, the track where we get to trace your steps.
Trace my steps?
Your steps.
Trace your steps.
Trace your steps back home. Trace your steps back home. Trace your steps back home.
Brian sings so fast on this track. It's kind of insane how fast he sings.
Yeah, this one is good for dancing. Can you imagine if there was an entire album of just this song?
Oh my god! I would be fatigued.
This song
very quickly
made my heart go too fast. Again, this is like too fatiguing. It feels too fast.
Step back home. Step back home. Oh my god.
It feels too fast. Now, am I getting old?
It's very. Is this what it feels like?
This song makes me feel old purely from how exhausted it makes me feel.
I can't dance to this because my heart will give out if I try to dance to this song. It kind of reminds me of Less Than Jake because the bass line is front and center alongside the vocals on this track. And I like this song. I like what the song's about. I like that it's about reflecting on your past mistakes and making a better life for yourself in the future instead of wallowing on your issues and never changing. You know, just some people are just stagnant. They're not capable of change. So this is one of those songs that's about, trace your steps back home, see what's the problem, and move forward. And it doesn't waste any time. It's a blast for a high-energy live show. But, here's a but, If You Want It is already on the album. So having two of these songs, I had to pick one that's better than the other. So I ended up putting If You Want It higher than this. But I do think it's another contender for my number 6 or 7. So even though, this song is really catchy, and it hits really fast, and it's really good, it doesn't quite make my top 5. So Trace Your Steps, really good song, but not my top 5. What do you think, Austin?
I think it's very danceable. I think I'm glad there's only one song that goes quite as fast as this one on this album.
Right. If there were more, you would die.
I like the general idea about that. Obviously, encouraging self awareness and self reflection are two things I am very in favor of.
Same.
I feel like I personally would have used perhaps a different delivery for such a theme, and
maybe one where you can understand the lyrics a little better.
Yeah, maybe. maybe encouraging such. When I say it's complex, for someone who practices such things, it's not complex. But obviously, the people who are in need of practicing self-awareness and reflection, it's not. It might be more complex, and delivering it in a song that moves at 300 beats per minute, it makes it slightly indigestible.
But it's got a fun horn line too.
Yeah. So it's great for dancing, but as far as like delivering its theme, the theme kind of becomes irrelevant purely down to the fact that this is like...
It becomes lost in the mix, yeah, a little bit. But it is fun. It's a really fun song, and I like fun songs.
Yeah,
so.
It is fun. Like you said, it's not like it's bad or anything.
No, I wrote this as in my notes, If You Want It, version 0.8. It's right there. It's right on the cusp, but not quite.
The beta release.
It's the beta release, which some people like beta versions of things more than the full version, so that's saying so. I'm sure there's a lot of people who like the song better than If You Want It. So.
I will say, placing it at 11 is an interesting choice.
Yeah, this is right before the last song on the album. I should have pointed that out. This is like right before we're starting to wrap up, but it's so fucking fast.
And it's weird because It's not like...
It does not prepare you to stop dancing. It wants you to keep going.
Yeah, they're not... It's so weird. It's so weird. I think the pacing of this album is a bit strange. Placing this as like the penultimate song on this album is very bizarre.
Well, we can't all be good at album sequencing.
I feel like if you're going to close your album, you want to either end your album going at 1 billion miles per hour or end it like you're ending... I don't know, like a mid-90s anime or something, and it's like we're doing our chill down song now. I don't know. I feel like they tried to do both, and it was very strange.
I could see this as an anime ending. I could see this as a 90s anime ending.
Trace Your Steps?
Yeah, straight. Yeah, I think so.
What fucking anime are you talking about?
I don't know. I feel the style of it,
I could not expect Bobo 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 Bo to end with this fucking song, dude. Are you kidding me?
Alright, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how I feel about it. It's got the style. It's got the 90s flair that I like so much. Oh, speaking of 90s flair, can we talk about track 12? The final track, the track where the album goes away. It's called Gone Away.
This one has kind of a bit of a heady opening.
Yes, it does. And I want to point out that this is a very old song. This was probably written when the band started, before the band had all of its members, because this song is on the 1995 cassette of Edna's Goldfish, before the 97, before any of this. But obviously that cassette is nowhere to be found on the internet, but it is credited. This is the first song on that cassette. And it feels very old. It feels like a mid-90s Real Big Fish demo. Like when the band first started. It's very light on production, but it's also kind of charming. I mean, it's about a teenager losing touch with their friends and finding the hurt of their changing life being really painful. Like, where did my friends go? Mm-hmm. Why have they gone away from me? Why have I gone away from them? And it's got some of the hardest guitar work on that whole album, which is cool because the band... This is sort of like, the rest of the album is sort of like the ska sound that they were going for, but this song was written much earlier, and it sounds kind of similar to the stuff that would be on the album after this, in like 99, which is kind of crazy to me. It feels like that sort of thing was running around in Brian's head for a really long time.
Yeah, this does smack of one of those songs, because I'm familiar with this kind of thing where it's like you hold a song in your head for a while, and it kind of inspires you to do the band, to make the song. And this feels like it could be that song. And in a way, it's like one of those songs can slap a lot better than a song when you're trying to fill out a whole album. If you just have like the one, song that you've been ruminating on for years.
So how do you feel about it exactly?
This one gets some more joviality and a little bit more bounciness after the heady opening, which I think is good.
How do you feel about it following up off the last track?
I'm so thankful that it's not as fast as Trace Your Steps.
Yeah, hey, this is the breather for you, which is funny because it still has like some punk heaviness to it.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. I really feel like maybe, God, it almost feels like Gone Away was supposed to be like a secret track or something. Like it was supposed to play like a few minutes after.
Oh, you think the last song was supposed to like finish the album and then you wait like a minute and then this song plays?
Yeah, because I'm still like tensed up and like... I'm still tensed up from Trace Your Steps by the time Gone Away happens, and it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, there's not much time. You don't get much time at all before this song starts up. So
it's like, if it were like a secret song that happens after like 2 minutes of silence, I might have chilled out a little bit.
Unfortunately, that is not what happened. I don't think it wraps up the album well either, because at the very end, he just goes, huh, hey! And that's end. That's the end of the album.
Yeah, it's very anticlimactic. It's such... This is why the pacing in this album seems so weird to me.
It's a bit of a whimper. Not going out with a bang. It's a bit of a whimper on this one.
It's not even just like a bang or whimper. That's why I said it seems like they're trying to do both, because it's like, okay, well, we're going to do a bang, everybody. And then I'm like, holy shit, whoa, that was less of a bang and more of like, I felt like I was like I felt like someone had tied a noose around my neck and was like dragging me behind like a Ford F-150, and I had to like keep running in order not to get hanged behind it. And it was like, oh god, my legs hurt. The song is way too fast. I truly am tracing my steps currently, and my heart is beating way too fast. And then the rope is cut, And then all of a sudden, I'm expected to like, hey, chill out for a little. We're doing a heady opener.
Hey, me and the guys are hanging around the campfire. We're gonna drink some beers. You wanna join us?
Yeah, and I'm like,
Me and the guys that were just about to kill you.
yeah, I'm still recovering. Hold on, give me a fucking second. And then they're like,
You're like wheezing.
yeah. And then it's like, okay, well now I'm starting to cool down a little bit. And they're like, hey, and then it's over. And then they leave. And I'm like, what?
Hey, and then they disappear. They vanish into the ether.
And I'm like, wait, before I was being pulled behind the truck, weren't we talking about domestic abuse? And I'm like, what is the pacing of this album?
Anyway, on Gone Away, I do like the chorus, and I like how the horns are kind of a relief from the heaviness of the track, but I don't feel like that can hold it up entirely, and it's probably one of the weaker songs on the album. It's probably in the bottom 5 for me, if I could make up a bottom 5 all of a sudden.
Yeah, I gotta agree.
So that's all my notes. I mean, I already mentioned I feel like the album just ends with a whimper. He just goes, ha, hey, and then that's it. The album's over. So suddenly, after that, ha, hey, it's just silence.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I feel similar to this album in a way that I felt about, See What Sticks, where it's like, this is an early work for a new band which shows unlimited potential.
A new band, 25 years ago? Yeah, 24 years ago.
As of the recording.
As of when this was recorded.
Of the album.
They were new at the time. I mean, they've reformed the band 3 years after they originally formed it and then recorded an album.
It's like, it really feels like a band.
But they're still figuring their stuff out.
Yeah, there's so much to love about what is already here.
Yes, the album overall is great, in my opinion.
But there are obvious places where improvement could be made, but it's not like one of those things where it's like, oh, this band sucks. Like, look at all this shit that's, not perfect and I hate it. It's one of those things where it's like, there's a lot that I love in this album. Same thing as See What Sticks. And there's definitely places for improvement that are not hard to see. Mm-hmm. And I come to this not with a feeling of disappointment or anger or anything like that, but I come to it with like a bit of hope that like...
Yeah, like you're hopeful, right?
Like, wow, this is what the band is now. I can't wait to see what it is in just a few albums from now. Like, that's what I felt with the Third Rates.
That's so great. I'm so glad to hear it. That's exactly how I felt. Yeah, this album inspires hope for people,
It inspires my hope for Edna's. But that hope is tempered slightly, knowing that they don't exist.
Knowing that, 3 years later, the band does not exist anymore, and that now it still hasn't existed for 21 years.
So it's a little bittersweet to like.
We look back on it now, yeah. But if I was cognizant of it at the time, I would have just fell in love with this band, dude. Seeing all those people jump around at the shows, I'm so jealous.
It's a bit like seeing a pilot for like an animated show or something where you're like, holy shit.
Smiling Friends?
This Smiling Friend, but Smiling Friends was picked up.
No, it hasn't, and it still hasn't been.
Didn't Cartoon Network just announce a few days ago that they picked it up?
I don't think so.
I think they did. I thought I saw that.
Smiling Friends, because I've been waiting for it to get picked up this whole fucking time.
They waited like a year.
Oh, 5 days ago! Yeah, okay. Wow, okay. Excellent. Yeah. On the podcast, I get to be wrong, and I get to be happy about it. Yeah!
Smiling Friends is the Third Rates currently, where it's like, Edna's Goldfish to me is the Eltingville Club.
Oh my god, the oh, holy shit, you're really putting it back now.
Yeah, so it's like...
Welcome to Eltingville. That was Aquabats.
Yeah, that was Aquabats. Also ska. Tangentially ska related.
Yeah. All right, go on. Yeah, I agree. But this is a very good point you're making.
It's a real shame. Because it's like, you watch that thing, it's like, wow, I love that. I can't wait to...
I love that. I can't wait to see more. And then you realize,
And then it's like, well, the end, I guess.
Yeah, but I do like that we can go back and talk about it now. And overall, I feel that the songwriting on this album, surprisingly good. Lyrics are catchy, but they have effective use of storytelling, which I think is on par with the Less Than Jakes and the Boss Tones of the time. If I had to pick 2 songs that are very emblematic of the style, I would pick I'm Your Density and Just Less. I think both of those, while not my favorite on the album, are very worth streaming. Certainly on maybe a streaming service called Spotify. But... They condensed the style of the band into a syringe. Some might say a vaccine of that good ska punk stuff that starts the album really strong and it doesn't let up. The feeling of the album is consistent. It's lean. I like it. Sunrise to Sunset is the best song on the album. 8 out of 10.
There's no arguing Sunrise is the best song on the album. I will say Just Less is one of the songs with a lower play rate than all of the other songs on the
That's
album.
surprising to me. I think it deserves higher. It's
got,
so good.
Again, 2,300 or 23,000 is what it sits at.
That's so low for a song I consider like core listening on this track. Oh, I should say our top 5.
The lowest on the album was 12,000 for Gone Away.
Yeah, I figured that would be the bottom. Yeah, that's the weakest song on the album.
Yeah, when Edna's is at its best with the likes of I'm Your Density, Eventually Anyway, Sunrise to Sunset, and even Purple to an extent. Like, those songs are all quintessential ska and easily find their home on any ska fan's playlists.
Yes, and that's why I want more people to hear this album and talk about them still and inspire other people. That's what the podcast is about. I'm so glad I picked this album, and I'm glad you like it also. I mean, you seem to.
I do quite like parts of it, for sure. I feel like there is a lot of missed potential, which I would have just called potential had they the ability to iterate on it. Mm-hmm. But for me, the album as a whole, I would give like a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
For the songs I liked, Sunrise to Sunset's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Songs like Purple, I would give, again, like an 8.5 out of 10. Stuff like that. It's just
That's
good
pretty
shit.
fucking good.
You want to roll down our top 5s on this album?
Yes, I wanted to make sure that's clear because I have Purple at my number 5. I have I'm Your Density at 4. I have Just Less at 3. And I have If You Want It at 2. Sunrise to Sunset at number 1.
Mm-hmm. So I had Story at my number 5.
Wait, did you mention that? I don't think you told me Story was in your top 5.
I think I did. I think it was a bit of a surprise, but...
Oh, that's right. Sorry. All right, go on. I'm getting old, Austin. This is the album where we get old. This is the episode where we get old. We age rapidly.
This is the episode where Trace Your Steps ages both of us by 10 years.
I can't keep up. Wait, is the album over?
I sure feel self-reflective, though.
Self-reflective on my many years I have.
It really makes me wish. I look back and wish I didn't listen to the song.
Number 6 for me, though.
Story's at number 5, for sure.
Right.
Number 4 for me is If You Want It. Number 3 for me was I'm Your Density. I gave Purple my number 2, and of course Sunrise to Sunset the coveted number 1 spot, which often for our podcasts is shared between the both of us.
So 4 of our top 5s are the same songs, but where we differ is I have Just Less at 3 and you have Story at 5. Mm-hmm. But the other 4 songs are the same, and they're in just different spots.
Which is surprising.
Yeah, that's very surprising. Wow.
For me and you who come to this, you like the leanness of it. I like the fat of the song. It's right. Strange that we both walk away with a similar mock-up, if not placement.
Yeah, I think we were able to come together and realize which songs would appeal, to a lot of people.
The ones that stuck.
Yeah, the one you could say we saw what stuck. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But yeah, overall, good album. Glad we got to talk about it. Thank you, Austin. I have nothing else to say except I like Edna's Goldfish and Brian Diaz. Thanks to him getting that interview and talking about the band more, ever since Backstreet Boys reunion tour happened. He's been stuck at home, so he couldn't go on tour like he likes doing for so long to be a guitar tech. So he's been putting Edna's Goldfish stuff online. And recently, in January 2021, he put out Live at Wetlands 1997 on Bandcamp, which is not a great recording, but it is a recording of the band playing an entire set in 2021. That's the most recent release from Edna's Goldfish since 1999. So he dug that up for us. Thank you, Brian.
Even a rough recording has got kind of like a mood about it,
Yep. And he's also got a website for photography called briandiazphoto.com. So check that out. Thanks, Brian. That's the end of the episode, Austin. That's all we have to talk about. So we have to pick a topic for next episode. And since this one was mine, you get to pick the next one because we trade off. So what are we going to talk about for episode 15 of the podcast, Austin?
I know that the people love when my episodes come up because I am a man of incredible taste.
You're a man of culture, of ska culture. I believe your second pick was Sponge.
Was it the second pick?
Yes, it was the second pick.
I am a man of incredible taste.
Yeah, your first was Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, though, and that set a very high bar.
A horrendously high bar.
So the fact that Sponge did not clear that bar was a surprise to me.
I believe I have something of a similar name, which shall approach the bar, if not, exceed it. I doubt anything frankly could exceed Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, as that is a band that I frankly am in disbelief constantly that it exists.
And still puts out great music, because they've put out like 3 more albums since we reviewed that other one.
Unbelievably talented. I love them.
Super fucking talented. Hey, but we're not talking about them. Who are we going to talk about instead? Another talented band, I hope.
Another talented ska orchestra, in fact.
Oh, an orchestra. What kind?
This one
of orchestra?
hailing from the country that doesn't exist, known as Australia.
Where's that?
Specifically Melbourne. We're going to be talking about Melbourne Ska Orchestra on the next episode as we dig into the 2016 album release called Sierra Kilo Alpha.
Yeah, the military letters, the code words for ska.
Pilot speak for ska, basically.
Pilot speak, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not their first album by any means, but this is an album which I listened to, and it does have quite a few bangers in it, which I am excited to dig into with my boy.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a great band to research too, because it has so many members. Austin, do you know the book report that you're going to have me write?
Oh, that is true.
Wikipedia says 34!
Oh boy, it'll be great when I have you list off. If you're going to do that, you're going to list off them all like you usually do.
No,
What an incredible precedent, which you instantly regret.
Okay, look, I didn't do this for TSPO, okay? I can do a band history, but I don't think I'll do a member list for this. There's too many. There's too many. But I will do my research on the band, and I will talk about, the other albums, whether they charted, all that good stuff, and I will talk about the big band stylings of Melbourne Ska Orchestra next time on the Rude Boys Podcast. Goodbye, y'all.
Goodbye, everybody. And remember the incredible lesson we learned today about Edna's goldfish, who still swims the waters, just the waters, but he's quite large. You'll see him someday.
Maybe in a video game.
He's being tracked because he's immortal and grows every year. And frankly, it's scaring the military at this point.
No one to trust with what you know. And this squealing times were a giveaway. Gangsters scattered to read up Faraday. Thought you'd be the currency tonight. Gloves are off and the war ignites. He recalled his mother's words.